Hi, I'm Amanda Morris. I'm an LCSW. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today to talk about autism, late diagnosed autism, and the unexpected feelings, including grief, that can come along with that. So, what happens when you come to the realization later in life, either self-identified or you go ahead and get tested, evaluated for autism? It can bring up a lot of emotions. For instance, sadness, anger, grief, confusion. So, connecting the dots when you have spent your whole life wondering what's wrong with you or feeling like an alien or weirdo, and now you have this explanation that is putting all of that into context. It can be a lot. So, quick story. A few years ago, when I was evaluated and diagnosed, at first I felt a lot of relief. It was good to finally know that what I thought was wrong with me was a thing and a difference, and not just me being some kind of freak that didn't understand what everybody else seemed to understand, what came naturally to them. So I felt relieved. And then I had some other feelings show up, such as sadness, anger, and frustration, to be honest. So, what is the anger coming from? If you are experiencing anger after coming to the realization that you have AuDHD or autism later in life, the anger a lot of times can be towards other people, systems, schools, doctors, healthcare providers, your family, basically anyone who missed this huge thing about you. So, most of us have a concept of autism, at least those of us in my age group, Gen X, and maybe even some millennials, that it's like Rain Man. If you ever saw that movie, I think it came out around 1987 or so with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And Dustin Hoffman's character is an autistic savant, which means he was a genius in addition to being autistic. So a lot of people's concept of what it meant to be autistic was just that. That was mine for many, many, many years. I assumed all autistic people were also geniuses. And while that can happen, you can be twice exceptional, be gifted, and be autistic. That does co-occur. It's not necessarily the default or the norm. So people assumed that that's the only thing that autism looked like. And we now know that it looks a lot different in different people. People can present very differently. The research used to be done only on little boys, and it looks different in little girls. So a lot of us that were actually autistic were missed. We weren't captured. The net was not wide enough. People in the medical community and the research community, nobody got it. Nobody understood. So right now it may seem like to you that everybody and their mother is getting diagnosed or saying that they're autistic. And it kind of can come off to some people as like a social contagion or a trend. And it's not. It's just that we know more about it now and we know more what to look for and how to identify it. And so those of us who maybe had lower support needs and were level 1 and got missed and learned to mask very well are now recognizing that all of the things that were happening to us and all of our experiences and struggles were autism. So anger, sadness, grief, there's going to be a lot of that probably. If you are autistic and you don't have higher support needs, then where do you get support? Do you still need support? Are you disabled? Those are a lot of questions that I had and a lot of my clients have. And are you disabled? That depends on you specifically and the ways that your life is affected by your autism or impaired. Your functioning may be impaired in certain ways, and you may or may not identify as a disabled person. Under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and you qualify for accommodations and can get accommodations, for example, in the workplace. But I personally don't really identify as disabled necessarily, although my autism can be very, very disabling on a daily basis. And that's hard to explain when you can watch me talk here. I'm a high masker. I've been masking my entire life. And so it can be hard to suss out. So what kind of support is available to us, those of us who maybe, and I don't want to say higher functioning, we have lower support needs than some other autistic people. And so what kind of support is there, and what do we even do about that? Where do you go looking for that? In my area, there are lots of resources for higher support need autistics and children and some adults that are more profoundly affected and impaired by their autism. But when it comes to level one, there's not a lot of resources out there. I think because they just haven't been identified and created yet. We're still figuring out what people like us need, but we do have needs. It is very, very difficult to explain to people who are neurotypical or just don't have a lot of knowledge about autism. Even a lot of healthcare professionals at this point don't have a lot of knowledge about it. So it's very hard to explain how we are impaired and what kinds of support we need. And right after your diagnosis, you may still be kind of figuring that out when you're still connecting the dots. So what kind of sensory needs do you have? You know, we've pushed through our whole lives white knuckling it and dealing with sensory overload and masking that. So then how do you unmask that, and how do you even identify what sensory needs or accommodations you might need? And that's another conversation for another video. But for today, I just wanted to reach out and connect with anybody out there who is a late diagnosed autistic or AuDHD woman. I say AuDHD, that means you have ADHD and autism. They often go together. Not in everybody, but in a lot of people they do, and certainly in me they do. And that can be quite a wild ride. Very interesting. So anyway, if you have recently been diagnosed or self-identified and you're experiencing a lot of emotions, that's completely normal, and you are absolutely not alone. There are some resources, and hopefully there will continue to be more, and I am trying to be a resource for other people. So I am starting a group. If you are located in Louisiana, Florida, or Virginia, I'm starting an unmasking group. It will start August 6th, 2026. Registration will close July 30th. So if that is something that appeals to you, there's lots more information about it, more details about it on my website, amandamorristherapy.com. And you just look for the unmasking group under therapy services. And I'd love to have you if that sounds like a fit for you. Otherwise, I will be back with more information. Hopefully it's helpful to you. If it is, please subscribe or share this with somebody that you think would benefit from hearing about this. So I'll be back with more. Thanks.